Hi, everyone. Welcome to the worst episode of the PandA Pod ever. And that's saying a lot because we have a tendency to talk excessively about disaster on this podcast. I am 1/3 of your host, Michelle Bishop, the Voter Access and Engagement Manager here at NDRN. Justice, tell the people who you are.
I am Justine, Justice Shorter, otherwise known as Justice. I am the National Disaster Protection Advisor here at the National Disability Rights Network. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here.
Y'all, that was extraordinary. We didn't even prepare for that. This is Erika, you're third of the third. Can I say that? Third of the third? Is that a thing?
Sure, go with it. Yeah.
I like it.
I'm not sure, but do it.
Let's do it. I am Erika Husdon, Public Policy Analyst with NDRN. And I guess this will serve as, well, I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to say this will be my last podcast on the PandA Pod.
Tell the people why this is the worst episode ever.
I don't know if we're going to
rip the Band-Aid off, Erika. We're
going to make it the best PandA Pod episode. I'm headed out. I'm leaving to go to grad school. So I will be missing all these extraordinary people on this podcast and you all, but I'm very grateful that we can jump on one last time. Well, not last time. I'm hoping you will bring me back as a guest one day. That's going to be the plan.
Justice, do we have like sad violin music?
No, but I can always just break out with Boys to Men. You know what I mean? I feel like
it's time.
Okay. It's so hard to say goodbye to Erika on the PandA Pod. You better hit that falsetto. Okay.
I don't know if you could hear me snapping in the background, y'all. It got real. And to this day, I don't even know if Erika knows Boys to Men.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I have tears in my eyes. That was the most beautiful thing ever.
It's funny because I was literally about to hit with the Tevin Campbell. Like I just felt like I should just be asking, it's a whole other song and it has nothing to do with her leaving, but Tevin Campbell is dope and I feel like it's around the same time. And I just wanted to get into that, but it's fine. We'll say
no way she knows who Tevin Campbell is. She's Swedish American. She spent way too much of her life listening to ABBA. She doesn't know these artists.
We're gonna have to get you up with a playlist before you leave. A PandA Pod playlist. If you guys have recommendations, feel free to send them in to an email address that will be provided in the show notes. But
we have first ever PandA Pod Spotify playlist. Yes.
There's no way for me to know if we have show notes, but it's fine.
It's also just going to be a lot of 90s R&B, clearly.
Really, clearly. And a couple, Swedish sweet songs thrown in there as well with Erika's recommendations. I think we could do this, but there's so many great things to discuss. And there's been so many updates. My goodness, folks, since we've been on the pod together, it's been pretty much a year since the three of us have been joined together in conversation. So I'm really eager and elated to hear what you all have been up to. I mean, we've had a whole election. We've had multiple disasters. We are still currently dealing with concurrent crises. Everything from the COVID pandemic to now being in hurricane season to also thinking about wildfire season and excessive heat waves and so many different things for us to unpack and for us to think about and to be aware of as we continue on doing the work to protect and advocate on behalf of and directly beside people with disabilities. So I'm excited for today's conversation.
Well, honestly, last time we spoke, it was so long ago. Like you might have heard there was a little election that happened in between then and now. What? There was. If you felt like it was supposed to end in early November and it somehow went through January, you are not alone. That drags on for a long time. But actually the cool thing is, I mean, we've been sharing a lot of information about this with the network. We made so many changes to how we run our elections based on COVID that it actually had the side effect of making elections more accessible for people with disabilities. So we did things like making it easier to vote by mail or letting you drop it off at a drop box or letting you vote curbside, all these things that they did for the pandemic that maybe we should have been doing all along that made voting a lot more accessible. So as contentious and strained as this election was, we actually probably made some awesome progress on really realizing the promise of the ADA and HAVA when it comes to elections. But of course, that means we're now seeing a lot of backlash in the states, and having to work very hard to make sure that all those things stay in place and that they don't get taken away in the state legislatures. I know Erica's been doing a ton of work on this. I think that's probably, Erika, I assume that's the part you're not going to miss.
Yeah. So, I'll just put it that way. Speaking of the ADA, happy 31st birthday coming up to the Americans with Disabilities Act, right? Here in July. Perfect timing that we're all talking about this. And it's so surreal that we all like met right before everything changed in Justice's office and talked about voting and emergency preparedness and the 2020 census. We
talked a lot about disasters and we didn't know one was coming.
No. And I think, so here we are. And the fact that the 2020 census wrapped up, but it's still ongoing since we're still looking at that data. And we just recently found out a few months ago, the initial population counts for every state, which was pretty exciting to see, but also emphasize the importance of being in the 2020 census. I think New York lost a seat in the House of Representatives by less than 30 people, meaning if like 30 more people had either been counted or if they weren't missed in the census, which arguably we won't know for a while. That's how New York lost a seat in the House of Representatives. So again, it's emphasizes the importance and ties it all in together, right? With voting and emergency preparedness, given that the pandemic was happening during the count,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I want to actually pull on that thread that both of you have kind of mentioned, the changes that come in the midst of a crisis. And of course, I'm always trying to be vigilant of these things because sometimes those changes are for the better and sometimes they make things drastically worse. Michelle, you mentioned a bit about the backlash that came in terms of voting. Can the two of you talk to us a little bit about the things that you want to keep, the things that you hope to sustain in terms of what has come out of COVID? Michelle, you talked about some of those great changes in terms of voting rights. Are there any other things that you guys are noticing, even if it's outside of your typical portfolio for NDRN, but just things that you have noticed in terms of the disability community that you really hope will stick around, even as the country starts to shift into a different posture as it relates to the pandemic, right? Things are reopening despite the prevalence of the Delta variant and of course trying to maintain that and get that under control. But more and more people are becoming vaccinated every day and things are starting to widen up a bit more. But what are you guys are hoping will either stick around that we've gained during the pandemic, Erika, and what are you hoping will change and get better?
I'm hoping Erika will stick around. Is it too late?
That was good. That was really good.
Yeah. I'm picking up what you put down. Yeah, I had no clue what was happening either, but I'm picking up what you put down. No, this is good. But what are you two thinking?
Well, I mean, I think we did, I talked about it in the elections world, but even in general, we really had this movement towards you can get things delivered, you can pick things up curbside. And I think that has benefits for all types of folks who may not be able to get out of the house or get to some of those places, or those places may not be fully accessible to them, or they might just be someone who's immunocompromised who really would benefit from limiting their exposure more in general. And I think that we shouldn't rely on those things, right? We need to make everything fully accessible. But I guess what elections has taught me is that I love the idea of options, and everyone should get to pick the option that's really going to make it work for them. And I think the more we've created those, I hope that they stick around and we keep thinking that way in terms of, just here's a smattering of options. Pick the thing that's going to make this work for you and go live your life and participate fully in your community.
Mm-hmm. Right. And on that too, Michelle, right? I think including myself, I've said, I can't wait until things get back to normal, right? I mean, I know I've used that expression, but the reality is, why not better, right? And there are some of our colleagues within the disability community who've said that too, and been fantastic at being open and honest about that conversation. Before, things weren't necessarily the greatest, if you look at certain aspects, whether it's the flexibility with working from home for various reasons, or just access to telehealth that I feel like has become more prominent now following the pandemic. Like, let's get back to better. I think that sounds really exciting, and people are working really hard to get there. So I think that's something I'm excited about, what the future holds.
Indeed, so am I. I think there's just so much work that has been done and so much work to continue to do. Just in terms of the network, there has just been a groundswell of advocacy and activism and work around rationing, right? And making sure that policies, procedures, and practices concerning healthcare for individuals with disabilities, that those systems were not continuing to be structured in a way that was inequitable for people with disabilities. And then when you merge that in relation to Black, Indigenous, and people of color with disabilities, that is a different conversation when we look at some of those disparities and we look at the impacts and the numbers and the differences of how those things bear out geographically. How they bear out in terms of sexual orientation, and then also, of course, what it looks like when all of those things intersect, when we talk about race, when we talk about gender, when we talk about sexuality, when we talk about disability, when we talk about all of those things simultaneously, because we live these holistic lives, right? We don't live these single issue lives. And so thinking about that in a true sense of the word of intersectionality and its meaning around compounded forms of oppression, this is what the pandemic revealed for many, and it affirmed for others, right? Others who have been saying this and who have been screaming these messages from the rafters for decades. It had amplified their voices even more. No longer could their commentaries and their stories be cloaked in darkness and disbelief, right? And disparaging these individuals in terms of what their true lived experiences were, saying that this is not real because it's not happening in massive amounts of numbers, right? It's not impacting the masses. So in that sense, it's not real or it's not relevant. So many people have been receiving these messages in one way or another, whether it be implicit or explicit. And I think the pandemic has done a lot to move us forward in a measurable way. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited for the conversation and the concentration around making sure that those who are the most impacted remain at the center of how we shape and how we sculpt things, right? And that really invigorates me. And I'm hoping that once things, continue to open up and unveil itself in different ways, in terms of this new reality that we're all trying to build, I'm hoping that won't be forgotten about, right? And I think a lot of folks from where I'm from, we typically say, we're not new to this, we're true to this. We've been talking about these issues before 2020, we've been talking about them during 2020, talking about them after 2020, like this is just who we are. As a people, it is our story, it is the ancestry, it is the history, and making sure that those narratives don't get lost. And this highly focused obsession with normalcy and wanting to get back to the way things were, which were not great for everybody. And that was the problem. And we saw how much worse they could get for everyone else when we start to see it in connection to a large scale catastrophic event, such as a public health crisis like the one we're dealing with right now. As well as other events that are taking place. I'm really thrilled that you all mentioned that, because it's something that we want all the listeners to just remain vigilant of in your advocacy and your work. Please continue to stay the course and to chart new territory. And go in places, go in directions that other people have not been. Sometimes it can be as simple as getting together with two of your homegirls or two friends or two work colleagues and having a conversation about what are the needs, right? What can we do? How can we move outside of what has become the status quo in order to make some real substantive change? And those conversations do something to you. They change you both personally and professionally. And so that is only my personal testimony because it's happened for me. And so I hope that it happens for you, and let us know what we can do to help you come through.
Well, I would have dressed nicer for today's episode if I had known we were going to church.
I'm just saying.
Because you did preach justice.
Put that thing down. I'm just saying.
I feel you though. I mean, I don't know if we keep talking about going back to normal, and I ordered an air purifier and had it sent to the office. So I don't know if I'm all that interested in going back to how things were in particular. Yeah. But I hope people start staying home when you feel sick instead of going into work or wherever and potentially getting people sick. I hope still see people wearing a mask on the metro if they do have to go out and they aren't feeling well, right? I mean, I think it's hopefully the thing the pandemic has taught us is that we can do things to take care of each other, to make each other's lives better, right? And keep each other safe. I hope that comes out of this.
Oh my goodness. And you talked about something great, Erika. I want to get your thoughts on this too, about workplace accommodations, right? Like people with disabilities, like all of a sudden we can tell, and people have talked about this extensively, right, over the last year. So I'm like, oh my goodness, things that we have been fighting for years, the exact reasons why we were refused certain positions, saying that telework wasn't an option, and we couldn't get things done remotely, and I couldn't do my job in this way or that way. All of a sudden it became available to everyone. Are there other workplace accommodations or things that you've noticed just in your conversations or your dealings with people with disabilities that you've noticed have been really, really great attributions or additions that you hope stick around?
Yeah, and Justice, thank you so much for sharing everything that echo, just like what Michelle said. Thank you. This is why we always need to have these conversations on the regular basis, y'all, and come together and talk about exactly this. And I think, there's a lot of different avenues that we can take in terms of workplace accommodations or the disability community, using politely the expression "I told you so," in the sense that like things can be better, and they should be. And it's not even work, right? It's just like all the things. I think I've heard numerous stories of people being able to see musicals for the first time because they were hosted virtually, right? Or concerts, something that is really exciting and more inclusive. And I think it gives us the option, just like Michelle said, like, why not have options that work for everyone? And I know we are all at home right now doing this, which is really exciting. But just figuring out what works best for everyone, I think, is the best solution. Although I miss seeing everyone by all intents and purposes and being in the same room, this is also pretty awesome in my opinion. So just figuring out what's best for everyone. But I'm curious, I don't know, that's a good question. What else in terms of work accommodations? I feel like I need to have a better response to that than what I'm currently thinking of. Goodness.
Sorry. Did anyone else notice that Erika said you all are at home doing this right now? Where is Erika?
Oh, I'm at home. I'm currently. No, I should be more explicit. I am also.
She's already in Sweden, isn't she?
No, right. Wearing pajama pants still, to be completely transparent. So.
I am all about it. I am wearing basketball shorts, which has been my uniform. Yeah, it's been my summertime uniform, because it's so hot in DC. And that's another thing about, thinking about the weather and thinking about the environment, the heat waves that have been going across the country. I think, DC yesterday was around 95, where I'm from, my hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin was 93. Texas is, and areas around the South are double digit or triple digits, right? So in California, triple digit numbers that folks are noticing, and that has some real difficult and heavy effects, specifically as it relates to individuals with disabilities, trying to find cooling centers and getting transportation to these places. It is issues like this that really stand out in my mind. And it's primarily because they sometimes don't make the same level of impact in terms of media attention, right? They don't sometimes get the same level of attention as a really big storm would get, or perhaps as a massive wildfire would get, but they also really impact the lives and the well-being of people with disabilities. So it's a huge issue, and I'm hoping that people also have the opportunity to stay cool, because that's a conversation that sometimes gets overlooked. But in terms of what you were saying also, Erika, I also completely agree that it should not just all be about work, right? And we also have to understand that people with disabilities and people in, even those who do not have disabilities, your worth is not tethered to your work. You have inherent worth as a human being holistically. And so to honor and understand that. And so all parts of how you find joy and pleasure in life is important. Like you were saying, Erika, the theater shows, my goodness, I miss theater, concerts, things like that. People having access to those things virtually is a huge deal. And also being able to, once things open back up, having the option to go there in person and making sure that access is provided in those physical spaces, just as much as they're hopefully going to remain some degree of access in virtual spaces as well, would really be monumental to make sure that people can continue participating in all parts of life that they deem appropriate and important for them.
Right.
That's a great point. Ooh,
That was good. I love how the segues are happening. This is why we're host of the PandA Pod. And also, I will say, when you said monumental, I thought that was appropriate because we're in DC. Monument, you know what I mean? Had to throw that out there.
On the nose. Yeah, no,
exactly. That's all I was saying.
It's like she can't leave without doing a pun.
No, I love a good pun. I think you'll just have to be ready for all the fruit cushions that I'll leave behind for you all. So you're welcome in advance. But I think that's a really good point. And I know we talk about a lot of serious things during the PandA Pod, but also I'd love to hear about what people are passionate about outside of all the important work that they do and what they find joy in. And I think for some, including myself, that was amplified during the pandemic and during everything that happened in 2020. I know I started baking a lot, so that was wonderful. And I found camping, which I know based on that conversation, that's not everyone's favorite on this podcast, but all I'm saying is that's what I found to be amazing. What did you all do? Anything in particular that you found joy in during the pandemic?
Okay, first of all, camping just sounds like how you die in a horror movie, and I'm sticking to that. I have seen enough 80s slasher flicks to know that holds up. But I've probably over the past year spent more time with my baby nephews who are 4 and about to be 2 than I ever could have imagined. And they are hilarious and wonderful and give very good hugs.
That's awesome. Oh my God, kids give the best hugs. My nephew, who's 8 years old, actually just recently told me that I needed to break up with DC. So it's just like, you need to stop going back and forth to DC. He's over it. You know, he lives in Milwaukee and he's just done. It's like, you need to break up. DC's no good for you. Like it's a wrap. He's not feeling it anymore. The kids are just amazing.
We're already losing Erika, so I need your nephew to back up a little bit. Okay.
He is so passionate about this, you know, actually, and thinking about people with disabilities as whole people and with whole lives and multifaceted lives, another thing, I'll be quite candid, that has really given me a lot of joy is to notice love, right? Like just people, whether it's love for family members, just people coming together on Zoom calls, right? People making a concerted effort to hug one another, not like, people who've been like, that's in your pod, but like caring, giving, distance hugs and sending kisses people's way, just, I love you. I care for you, making calls to folks who they haven't spoken to in I don't know how long. Some folks have gone back to penning letters or writing kind of more long form emails, but really kind of focusing in on the connection that we have with one another, even dating wise, like, folks are just like, I want to focus more on my personal life too. Again, understanding that people are not machines who are just work, but also, care about building families or building relationships and having love and joy in their lives and pleasure in their lives in a multitude of ways. And that has really lit me up inside. Everything from even the end of life celebrations, because there's been so much loss, but people coming together to show their expression of love for even those who were not able to survive who did not survive the certain disasters or even the pandemic, but coming together in that way and then letting love fuel them and fuel their advocacy, right? To say that no other family should go through this or no other child should have to lose a parent this early. And so letting that love be the back force, be the true backing of their advocacy has really lit me up as well. So I think about love in this conversation too, and love is the thing that really fuels me in a lot of ways. And when I am preparing, remarks or to do a workshop or speaking, I really try my best to let love lead me. What do I think these people, whoever the audience is, really needs to hear? And if I don't have something that I think is pertinent to say or that's going to add anything, I just try my best not to say anything. Just like, I think you guys good. You got it. You don't really need me on this panel. But I think letting love be my barometer for that has been really helpful. So 2020 revealed that to me. It really helped me to get more centered in love.
The other thing too is, as we're having this conversation, I think for folks who are listening, I know there's a lot of work to do. There's always a lot of really pressing work to do. The work that we do is so important and it changes people's lives. And that's always with me. But, as we talk about getting back to normal or getting back to a better version of normal, thinking about those things that you realize over the past year give you joy or peace or fuel your fire or whatever it may be, and think about how you're going to take those back into the world, and think about how you're going to take care of yourself as we do that.
Absolutely. Self-care is huge. Erika, how are you going to be taking care of yourself when you go to Sweden?
I was going to say this episode is really all about Erika. So I feel like, Erika, what do you want to talk about on your way out the door?
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to talk to you all. That's what I wanted to have happen. It's been one of the greatest joys doing this. And I know it's not a goodbye. It's 100% just a see you later. So I'm not worried at all, but it has truly been one of the greatest joys to do this. I will never forget the memories that we've had doing this. And I and my grandmother will continue to listen to the PandA Pod and all the important work that you all are doing. As I'm in Sweden, probably listening to ABBA, like Michelle said, because even well into 2021, it appears Swedes still listen to ABBA, and all the classics right there.
Just add Tevin Campbell to that. Just add Tevin Campbell. Can we talk? Add it to the list. It's dope.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, it's a classic.
And I'm still about to blast it once we get off this call because I'm into
who?
it. I'm into Tevin Campbell. Can we talk for a minute? It's a whole vibe. It's a whole vibe, and so.
Wow. And the first time we ever had to use the bleep button, there it is, folks.
Was right. I don't know if that was the first time. I already should have cut last time. But I'm not going to get sad because that will just be endless. But I couldn't think of a better way to do this with anyone else on the team. And also, of course, our incredible communication specialist, Tina, who has done all the work for this. Y'all are amazing. And maybe not next episode, because there's still some things I think that the world needs to work out before then. But then one day we'll all just record in Sweden and it will be fantastic. We'll go international, go on.
Can we get
tour.
NDRN to pay for a Swedish episode where we go to Sweden?
It's probably on the list. So
talk about advocacy.
All right.
Talk about advocacy.
Right.
I think we should be advocating for those things.
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
I feel like the only last request I have is for you all to sing us out, right? Is that an option here? I mean, you already sang, so I feel like that should be the last of it as we continue everyone's important advocacy and sing us out.
What's your request?
I was going to say a song request.
I honestly, you all do whatever you feel most comfortable with is what I would say. I don't want to put you on the spot, which I clearly already did.
I've been throwing out songs. Michelle, what you got?
I'm still feeling that Boys to Men vibe. Justice, are you ready?
Which one? Which song?
All right, I'm going to take it. You come in when you hear it, okay?
Okay, hopefully
I'm so
I know the lyrics.
excited.
Otherwise, I'll just hum.
This is going out to
Goodbye,
Erika.
everyone. Thank you. And here are Justice and Michelle singing us out of the PandA Pod.
All right, this is for you, Erika. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
Ooh. And we out.
That was amazing. That was so good.